Content repurposing is the secret behind every successful content operation that you see today. From solo creators building their own personal brands to massive content teams working at Fortune 500 companies. In this video, I'm showing you how to build your very own AI-powered content repurposing factory using n8n, Apify, and Claude Sonnet. This system is completely customizable. You can easily modify it to change the target social media platforms, adjust the tone, and adjust the writing style. This isn't just an automation, it's your personal content multiplication machine. Stick around until the very end of this video and I'll give you the exact n8n workflow template and the prompts we use to power this automation. That way you can clone this entire system and start scaling up your content process today. All right, let's jump into it. Let's jump into this with a quick demo so you guys can see exactly how this n8n automation is going to work end to end. The first thing we got to do here is in this green section where we scrape a YouTube video. This is specific to our business here at The Recap because the very first piece of content that we're building is going to be a YouTube video that then gets fanned out and repurposed into many other pieces of content like a Twitter post and a LinkedIn post. So for our business, we've set it up this way. If your business or your client's business is set up differently, maybe you're writing a blog piece of content for the first thing you need to repurpose, you'll have to change this to scrape that long form blog content first. But for us, we're using this YouTube video, so let's grab one of our own videos. I'll click on this one here for I rebuilt a $20 million AI app with n8n and Lovable. Got the URL. Let's start the workflow and pass that URL in. That's going to kick things off here. And on this first node we have running is going to be an API call we're making out to Apify to scrape that entire video's metadata and gives back a full transcript of that entire video. We're going to then use that transcript and fan out here to number 2 and number 3, where we repurpose that transcript into an engagement optimized Twitter post and an engagement optimized LinkedIn post. So once that finishes, we clean up a little bit of the data and split out the title, the transcript, and the URL. And then we then fork off to both of these paths. So for writing our Twitter post here, we first set a couple of examples of tweets that have done really well for us. We take those examples, pass it into this node here where we build out a full prompt for our LLM to write an optimized tweet. And then we have this LLM chain call, which will be responsible for writing 1 to 3 different engagement optimized tweets. So that's going to run. I'll pause here as soon as that finishes and we'll pick back up from there. All right, we're back. That just finished up. And for the last couple of nodes that you see here, we're going to share those tweets that got written into Slack, split it out, and do some final formatting on that data. So let me show you what that looks like. I'll come over here into Slack and we can see we just had this message shared for Twitter repurposing for that exact same video that we pasted in at the start of this automation. So we can see that we have tweet option number 1, number 2, and number 3 written. That's all coming from this prompt. And we can get an easy to read formatted engagement optimized tweet that we can then copy and paste into Twitter or schedule up however we want to promote this. So super easy to take that YouTube video URL and get an engagement optimized tweet out of there. Looks like the LinkedIn repurposing just finished. I'll jump back into n8n to show you. And we follow a very similar pipeline for how we built this out. Number 1, we set a couple of examples here on how we want a good looking a good looking LinkedIn post to look like. We build out a full prompt, and then we're finally writing a couple of different LinkedIn post options that are optimized for engagement. After that's done, everything gets cleaned up, split out, and shared into Slack for us to review and then copy and paste over into LinkedIn. So let's look at this here. We can see that we have our LinkedIn repurposing video title shared up above, and we have a different written LinkedIn post option for each of the best 3 that were picked out by the AI. Just so you know, we're giving away this entire n8n automation template and everything that you see here to replicate this content repurposing factory completely for free. All you have to do is click on that very first link in the description of this YouTube video to join our free school community called AI Automation Mastery. Once you're in there, go to the YouTube n8n Resources tab. Find the post that matches up to the title of this video. Click on it, and then you're going to be able to download this JSON file that contains the entire template. It's completely free. Every template for every video that we've made is in here, and we have a great active community of AI builders all working to build amazing automations. So be sure to join here and get access to that free template. Up next, I want to take you guys through a more detailed walkthrough of this n8n automation that's going to go node by node and jump into some of these prompts that we've used to build out this content repurposing factory. By the end of this, you're going to have a really strong understanding of how this whole system works and how you can even take this template that we're going to share, add in additional repurposing options, and scale up your own content repurposing factory. All right, let's dive into it and get started with the very first part of this automation, which is going to be the trigger and entry point. The first thing we have set up here is a very simple form trigger that's going to kick off this n8n automation. What we have set up is a simple field that takes in text, and that text is going to be required to be a YouTube video URL to get passed through the rest of our system. We set up this way because our long form content is going to be a YouTube video that kicks everything off. If you're building this automation around a different form of content, like a blog post or something like that, you're going to have to change this up a little bit to go out and scrape that data. We've put together a bunch of other different videos on how to scrape content, and so make sure to check that out. We'll link it somewhere here on the screen. The next step here is going to be the main scraping operation we do to get the actual details back from YouTube, including the title, metadata, and the full transcript of our own YouTube video. And so we're using a tool and platform called Apify to power this. If you're not familiar, Apify is a very powerful full stack scraping system that is built around the system called actors. Actors are these mini applications or mini scrapers that you can just hook into to get data from pretty much any source you need. So if I just search for YouTube, we'll go ahead and find this streamer's YouTube scraper that we're actually using here today. So you can jump into this, look at what is possible to get out from YouTube and how you can set up making requests to get that data. So very powerful system. We've done a couple other videos that set up how to use Apify, and I'll give you just the quick rundown on how to set up this specific actor. But in short, Apify, very powerful tool for scraping data from virtually any source across the internet. So what we're doing here is we're using this streamer's YouTube scraper URL. That's how we call into an actor. And we're going to use this method called run sync get dataset items. I like to use this one compared to some of the other requests here underneath their API. So I can go over there, go to API endpoints. There's a couple of other options you can use to run this, but I like to use run actor synchronously and get dataset items just because it makes it simple to consume. We make an API call, we get that data back in a single response, and then we're able to proceed. You don't have to set up polling or any other retry mechanisms. It keeps things simple. So we make our method HTTP GET into this URL, and then we specify a body here of how we want to set up our request and what data we need to scrape. If you're jumping into this, feel free just to copy what I've built out here. The main thing to do here is specify the start URLs array where we give that URL that was passed in from our form trigger. So let me start this off so we can see some real data populating here. So I'll execute, paste in our URL, pin this by clicking P, and then if I pull this up, we should be able to see real data flowing into this start URLs array. A couple of other options here are, what different data you need to get back from Apify. If you need to tweak this or change it for your own use case, or if this isn't working as you're expecting, go to this actor here, so streamer's YouTube scraper, and play around with some of the options you see here under manual. Really, all that I'm doing here is specifying the YouTube video that I want to provide under this direct URLs array, and we're going to get that data back. The other thing that I'm doing is going to be specifying options here under scraping subtitles. And so if you want to download the subtitles to get saved and returned in your response, make sure you have that set to true. So we're going to make that request, and Apify is going to go out and scrape that entire transcript for us. The other thing I want to cover here is how to actually set up and authenticate your request into Apify if you've not done this before. It's super easy to use using n8n's credential system, and so I'll walk through how to set that up. Under authentication, make sure you click on generic credential type. Under generic auth type, make sure you set to header auth because that's what Apify's API requires. And so how I found this out was by going to the Apify docs integrations API And then they have this authentication tab here over on the right-hand side that details how you can set up authenticating and connecting to the Apify API. So we can pass in the token via the authorization HTTP header. And so that's exactly what we're going to do. So we have, just by setting that up, we're going to have the generic credential type, header auth, and then we're able to specify a new credential. So come up here, name it whatever you want. So it can be Apify header auth, paste in authorization, and then for the value, this is where you need to go out and get your API key to work with and use with Apify. So to do that, make sure you're logged in to your Apify account. So under console.apify.com, come down to settings, go to API and integrations, and then go ahead and copy your API key here, and then paste that back into the value field. Once you save this, you're going to have this credential set up, whatever you named it, and then just make sure you select that from the drop-down here. So for every request you make to Apify's API, if you specify this credential type, you're going to be authenticated and are going to be able to get data back without any issues. So that covers it here for the Apify HTTP request, and we're able to move on. The other thing I want to cover is going to be the resulting data that comes back from Apify now that this has finished. So we can see that we got our title here, which is a video, our title, our URL, thumbnail, and any other metadata that comes back with it. Scrolling down here, there's a couple other things that are really important for us to use for this content repurposing workflow. The main one is going to be the subtitles array here that we've set up. And the first element of this array is going to be our English subtitles. So we can see here we have this SRT, which is a subtitle format that gives us timestamps and everything that is said at that specific timestamp. So here we can see at that 0 to 5 second mark, we have apps like Calorie AI are making tens of millions of dollars every single year. And so we get a timestamp, the text being said throughout the entire video, which is going to be very, very useful for us to process and pass through the rest of our automation. Going forward to the next part is going to be a simple set field node where we set some details that was extracted from this metadata. You don't have to do this, but this is a practice that I like to follow when building my automations, so I don't have to dig through this really large response object with data I'm not necessarily going to use. So we have our title getting slotted in. We have our URL of the video also getting slotted in. And finally, we have this full transcript here we can see in a little bit better format than before. So we're looking at the JSON object, the subtitles array, and we're just going to grab that first value .srt, which is that SRT format of the timestamps I was talking about before. So we have an index of the timestamp, we have an index of the transcript, we have a timestamp of the transcript, and then we have everything that is being said at that timestamp. So that's perfect, and we have this in a nice, easy to read format that's going to be easy to pass into an LLM later on. Let's go forward now to the next part of this automation. What we're going to do next is after the set field node is we're going to fan out to the two different sections that we have defined here. On number 2 here, we're going to be repurposing this transcript into a Twitter post. And under number 3, we're going to be repurposing this transcript into a LinkedIn post. And so when we actually run this, this is going to first run number 2. Once that's done, it's going to come down here and run number 3. When you're building out or changing this template to work for your own business or your client's business, you can actually add in as many of these sections as you want to if you need to repurpose to other formats. So say you want to build an Instagram post carousel and you had the good ability to do so, or you had a good vision of images you wanted to create, you could still take that same transcript, pass it in here, and you'll get that different formatted content repurposed from that same transcript. So the options are pretty unlimited here for how you want to repurpose any video that you're passing in. I'll delete this for now so we can run through this first path here of what everything looks like. So I'll pin this, and let's go ahead and run this top one for repurposing our video into a Twitter post. The first 2 nodes here that we see up top are going to be the nodes, our set field nodes that we use to build out our prompt to get later passed into this LLM chain call. We're going to set Twitter examples, which is going to be a simple string field where we have copied and pasted in a couple of tweets that we really like and have done really well in terms of engagement. So this is going to be a good example that we pass into the prompt that really gives the LLM a good idea of what's the general vision we have for the tweet that it's trying to write. So you can do this however you want. These are the examples for our own business we found that we want to replicate and scale out. But this is going to be a step when you're jumping into this automation that you need to think through, curate, and really put in the best examples possible here for your own content repurposing workflow. So I think we have we actually have 8 set up here, separated by markdown headers, where we just paste that text in and we have that all set in this Twitter examples field. The next step here is going to be the full prompt we've built out for writing these tweets. This is a pretty beefy prompt, much like others that we work with, but we can see here down below, there's a couple key components where we're slotting in previous data. And so, where it says step 1 here, analyze source material, this is going to be the part of the prompt where we tell the LLM to take in the full YouTube video transcript and meticulously analyze everything that's going on here. The LLM needs to have a solid understanding of what's the core value prop of the video, and we want readers of a Twitter post or LinkedIn post to take away, once they finished reading, one of those resulting tweets. So we have a couple of details noted here on what the LLM should be doing when analyzing that transcript. Under step 2 here, this is where we're going to take in those Twitter examples we built out before and tell the LLM to study those examples as inspiration before it goes out and writes its own output. This is a very common prompting practice that you're going to see in a lot of different spots that really does a great job of improving the output of what you're trying to generate. If we give the LLM more examples of what we're going after, the more likely the output of the LLM is going to match with what we want. So we tell the LLM here to next study the structure, tone, and psychological hooks of the following successful tweets. These examples are your primary source for determining the structure of the tweets that you will generate. Very important step here. Next up, on number 3, we're going to tell the LLM to deconstruct the examples and actually go out and generate the tweets. So we say, now you will generate the 3 unique viral tweet options. And so the output of this is actually going to be 3 different tweets, not just one-shotting one tweet. So we want to take those 3 tweets and pick the best one. So it's going to generate 3 viral tweet options. And your primary task is to act as a structural analyst where you analyze the provided examples, identify the most effective structures, and apply those structures from step 1. So not every video is going to match up to a structure of each of the tweet examples we've provided. And so this is just further clarification as we go through this prompt to tell the LLM that, hey, you should really look at the contents of the script, look at the contents of those examples, and pick out the best structure that you think is going to be the most effective in a tweet that you're generating. And it's going to do that for 3 tweet options. The rest of this content here below, part of the prompt, are adding in more constraints, some essential components that we always want to be there, regardless of what example structure it's looking at when it writes it, and then really elaborating more on the overall process. So that's really all there is to it. Pretty beefy, but this will all be included for you to read, review, and tweak to match your own use case. So that's what we have set up here for this master prompt for building the Twitter results. So we're going to take that prompt and then simply pass that in here to our LLM chain call. So all that content is identical. And the output of this is going to be our 3 separate tweet options that we asked for from before. So we have this array of tweet options, and we have the 3 best attempts that the LLM was able to come back with. We're going to set those Twitter options into its own field. We're going to split out each of those options and then share each of those into Slack for us to review. So I'll come down here into our Slack channel, and we can see that we have our Twitter repurposing message shared here. And then underneath that thread, we have all 3 of the best examples picked out according to that prompt we provided. So if you want to automate this further, technically you could, use another LLM to analyze these 3 tweet options and pick the best one and automatically post that to Twitter using the API. But for our use case, this is where we like to stop the automation and simply copy the best one, paste that into Twitter, and then either schedule that or share it right away. All right, that covers it for Twitter. Let's go down here to the second option, which is going to be responsible for forking off and repurposing that same YouTube video transcript into a LinkedIn post. So I'll run this right now so we can see some real data through the execution steps and go forward. So much like what we did with Twitter, the first two nodes here are going to be responsible for building out that mega prompt that we covered before. So we set our examples. If I blow this up, we have a couple of differently formatted examples that we found to be very effective on LinkedIn. So you can see the writing style here is much different. The call to action and the engagement steps at the very end of this are very different. And so this really comes down to, finding accounts that are doing well on LinkedIn, kind of building up your own curated library of those great LinkedIn posts, and then bundling those together for the LLM to have all that great context to go forward with. Going forward, we now have the second prompt here, which is going to be responsible for writing the LinkedIn post. So already at the top, we can see that, the role we've set up here is a bit different than the role we created for our Twitter prompt. So you are a world-class social media copywriter and viral growth hacker for Twitter. And then on LinkedIn, the role is a bit different, where you are a world-class B2B content strategist and LinkedIn growth expert. So already at the beginning, some differences here between the two different pieces of content we're trying to repurpose to. Very important that you're setting this up differently, or when you repurpose, you're just going to get a bunch of text that looks the same across all platforms. It really comes down to optimizing the best engagement strategy for each platform you're working with. So it's worth it to spend some time to really think through your target audience, who this content is for, so you can build the best prompt and the best resulting output possible. I won't go through all these, but you can see some very similar elements between this prompt and the prompt we did for Twitter. So we have our objective defined. We're going to tell it to analyze the source material that we pass in, which is our YouTube video transcript. We're going to have it study the examples, which are also passed in. And then we're going to extend and elaborate on the process we want the LLM to follow. And finally, end up with some output format and constraints we want it to follow. So, different audience on LinkedIn than it is on Twitter. And so we want to minimize the use of emojis. We want grammar and spelling and capitalization to look correct. Where on Twitter, it's a different audience that is more open to, some of those more freeform emoji usage and other types of not as professional writing. So that's what we do for the prompt. We pass that again into this LLM chain call. And then on the output of that, we get a couple of different options here under this post options array. We have 3 that came back. We're going to share an initial message in Slack, set those options, split it out. So we go from that single array into the 3 items that get passed into the Slack node here, where we finally share those options into Slack under this LinkedIn repurposing title. So we can then see our output here that looks very different from what we had created for Twitter. And that's all there is to it for this automation. The challenge I want to leave you guys with on how you can extend this is really going to be what I mentioned briefly earlier, where think through what other social media platforms you want to share this to. Maybe it's a newsletter section you also want to build out. That could be something you slot in here as another path, write out that text content by building a really good prompt, and then finally share that in Slack, or take it a step further with automating how you're posting that or sending that off to some other external system. The choice is yours. You have a ton of flexibility here, but this has been an automation we've used extensively here at the Recap AI to scale out how we promote our content. Hope you found this valuable and are able to start building your own content repurposing machine.
All right, before you go, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. Seriously, do it, because we're going to be breaking down all of the AI automations that we use to run all of our businesses. They're super helpful, and we're going to break down exactly how we do them on this YouTube channel. So make sure like and then subscribe, and then you'll get notified when we publish new workflows that can make your businesses run 20 times more efficiently, just like we're seeing here at the Recap and the other businesses that we're running. The other item is join our school community for free. The link's in the description. You'll be able to get this template, this automation that we just ran through in this video, completely for free. You can go to school and navigate to the video that you want, and then you can download the JSON output for the n8n automation. With that, you can upload it into your n8n, clone it, and then tune it for your business and your use cases. So like and subscribe, join our free community to get this automation for yourself, and we'll see you in the next video.